Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. May I have your attention, please? Thank you. A very warm welcome to all of you to the Embassy of India for our Hanukkah celebration. This is undoubtedly one of our highlight events every year, made special by the enthusiasm and participation of all our friends present here today. So a big thank you to all of you for joining us here today. The hallmark of the Indian way of life, as you all know, is that we adapt every influence, culinary, linguistic, religious, to our own Indian sensibility and thereby make it our own. The celebrations today will also reflect the distinct Indian Jewish tradition in the invocation, in the lighting of the Indian Jewish Hanukkah lamps, and of course the food, which I'm sure all of you will love. So without further ado, I invite Mr. Nissim Rubin, Assistant Director at the Asia Pacific Institute, AJC, and his sister, Dr. Shalom, to begin the ceremony with an invocation in the Indian Jewish tradition. If you could please take your places over there. Yes. And while they begin with that, I would also request Ambassador of India, Mr. Navteej Sarna, Ambassador Reuven Azar, Deputy Head of Mission of the Embassy of Israel, Mr. Isaacson, Associate Executive Director of the AGC, Mr. Mariashan, Executive Vice President of B'nai B'rith International, and Mr. Carrie Summers, President of Museum of the Bible, to kindly step forth and take their positions on either side of the lamp to participate in the lighting of the traditional lamps as Nissim does the invocation. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Nissim Rubin, and it's a privilege to showcase our country's Jewish and Indian heritage. As Jews in Israel, Indian Jews in Israel and in India proudly say that Israel is our fatherland, India is our motherland, and Israel is in our heart, but India is in our blood. So I should quickly say thank you to Ambassador Sana, Deputy Ambassador Santosh Jha, and all the friends at the embassy that I have the privilege of working regularly. I'll begin in the invocation, and during the invocation, we light the lamps in Indian Jewish tradition. Okay. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kideshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Hanukkah. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'asa nisim la'avotenu bayamim ha'em bazeman hazeh hanerot halalu anu madlikim al hanisim ve'al hapurkan ve'al hageburot ve'al hateshuot ve'al haneflaot ve'al hanehamot she'asita labotenu bayamim ha'em bazeman hazeh al yedei kohanecha hakedoshim ve'kol shemonat emet Hanukkah hanerot halalu kodesh hem ven lanu reshut להשתמש בהם, אלא לראותם בלבד כדי להודות לשמך על ניסיך ועל ישועותיך ועל נפלאותיך. מזמור שיר חנוכת הבית לדוד, ארומים כאדוני כי דליתני, ולא שמחת אוהבי לי. אדוני אלוה שירתי אליך, ותרפא לי. אדוני העלית ממצאו נפשי, היתני מיד דיבו. זמרו לו אדוני חסידיו, והודו לזכר קודשו. כי רגע ואפו האם ברצונו, ואני בקי ולפו קרינה. ואני אמרתי בשלבי, בל יעמוד לעולם. אדוני ברצונך העמדת להריון, הסתת פניך הייתי ניוון. Elecha Adonai ekravet Adonai metanan mabetza bedami veriti el shahat hayodaka afar hayagid amitecha Shema Adonai vehoneni Adonai he ozeli Afata mispeti lemahol Pitata saki vate azereni simcha leman yezamercha kabod velo idom Adonai Elohai leolam odecha. Thank you very much.
Thank you everyone for joining in this wonderful ceremony. I will now invite Ambassador of India, Mr. Navtej Sarna, to deliver the opening remarks. Thank you.
A very good evening. Shalom. And a warm welcome to the Indian Embassy for our annual Hanukkah celebrations. I'd like to particularly welcome Congressman Brad Schneider, Ambassador Azar, Deputy Chief of Mission of the Israeli Embassy, distinguished leaders and representatives of the AJC, APAC, the B'nai B'rith International, Jewish Federation of North America, the Hebrew Immigrant Aid Society, the Jewish National Fund, as well as the organizations Maryland Israel Development Center, Fairfax Economic Development Authority. Besides all of you, our friends from different walks of life, from the State Department, from the think tanks, from academia, from the media, and from the, what do I call it, the Jewish American Indian diaspora. I must thank Nissim Rubin for being the director of this event year after year, and for making sure that we celebrate it in the right traditions, the Indian Jewish tradition. Satwant mentioned that we take things and we make them our own way. So we took the Hanukkah latkes and made them into samosas. But it's basically the same. There's potatoes and it's fried.
And it's kosher.
And it's kosher. Everything is kosher. Well, thank you very much, as I said, for joining us. This has become a tradition in the Indian Embassy, I think, for the last 13 or 14 years that we have been celebrating Hanukkah. And in many ways, I think it is a reflection of the diversity of India, which is, all of you know, is nothing new. The Jewish presence in India goes back to more than 2,000 years. I have friends here like Dr. Ken Robbins who can probably trace where it all began and who did what, but I'll leave that for another occasion, except to say that the Jewish family in India has been a part of the rich Indian tapestry of religion, culture, language. And though a lot of the Jewish community from India emigrated to other countries, to the United States, to Israel, we are extremely proud, and I can say that with some confidence, having stayed 4 years in Israel and seen many Jewish communities who have come from different parts of the world, that the community that came from India keeps very happy memories of the country that it came from. And therefore, there is no sense of bitterness, there is no sense of historical angst. There is instead a deep love for both the country which they have adopted and the country that they have come from. And this is because this ultimately, I think these relationships are about people. And it's how people treat each other, how people respect each other, how people respect each other's beliefs, and how people allow each other to flower and gain from each other's opinions and viewpoints, whether they be on culture, whether they be on God, whether they be on religion. And I think that is something wherein lies India's strength. The Jewish people in India over the centuries have played a very critical role in the development of India, and I mean development in a very broad sense, the development of Indian society. And even in the last 100 years, you can find several names, whether they be General Jacob, whom many of us would have had the privilege of meeting and knowing, whether they be leading writers and poets, and whether they be, as they were very well known, some of the stellar stars in Bollywood. They have made a name for themselves. They have earned the love and respect of the rest of India. And in many ways, this sort of, it's Hanukkah, so I can use the word, this sort of miracle has sort of carried on, because you have the Jewish people in India, you have the Indian Jews in Israel, you have the Indian Jews in America, and then you all come together at the Indian Embassy in Washington. But that's, and I think where we have succeeded is in making these different streams of people meet, so that they can work for a greater cause. They can actually add synergy to each other. So I think the Indian Jewish diaspora in the United States is an important part of the overall Indian diaspora, which is getting to be 3 million strong. It is a part in its Jewishness with the rest of the Jewish diaspora in the United States, which has been playing such an important part, whether it be in American industry or American politics or American media. And at the same time, there is the Indian Jewish diaspora in Israel, which is, about 80,000 strong. It's difficult to believe, but they are there. And they come from different streams of the Jewish presence in India, from Kerala, from Maharashtra, from the Northeast. And they have made a home for themselves in Israel. And this people-to-people underpinning is a very, very crucial aspect of India-US relations and India-Israel relations. And I think this year we have a lot to celebrate. We have to celebrate, firstly, the 25th diplomatic anniversary, the 25 years of diplomatic relations between Israel and India. It was in 1992 that we set up formal diplomatic relations, and this year we are celebrating 25 years. We have to celebrate a very successful visit of the Prime Minister of India to the United States, and the first ever visit by the Prime Minister of India to Israel. All that happened, and this is, a miraculous coincidence? All happened within 10 days of each other. And now we're looking forward in January to the visit of Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu to India. And these relationships, I don't intend to go into the politics and the economics of it on this occasion, but suffice it to say that both these relationships, which in many ways draw strength from the other one, are today prospering like they have never done before. They are prospering because I won't even go into the strategic convergences. They are prospering because there is a commonality in the belief of human values. There is a commonality in the belief in democracy, in the rule of law, and in the desire for peace around the world. So given all these positives, I think it is Wonderful to have you all here together. It's wonderful to celebrate Hanukkah with you. And may I, on behalf of the embassy, wish you all a very happy Hanukkah. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador. I will now invite Congressman Schneider to kindly address the gathering.
Thank you. Good evening. Happy Hanukkah to all celebrating Hanukkah, 8 nights. It's a special time. It is such a great honor, Ambassador. Thank you for inviting me. It's a great honor to be here and share this. I remember as a child, my family having people, I grew up in Denver, but my mother would always invite people over for the holidays. And the first time we met a Jewish family from India, this was back in the 1970s, with some surprise. But I remember going to Israel. I lived there for a year in 1983 and getting more familiar with the community. And as you said, in 1992, the reestablishment of diplomacy, which ironically was only 699 years after Marco Polo going to India and meeting Jews on his travels. So the fact that there has been this connection, there is a long tradition. I want to welcome as well the people here from American Jewish Committee, AIPAC, all the other organizations. I don't have the list, but I will repeat what the list you said. It is really extraordinary, the bond of the communities. But it's a bond among peoples, the American people, the Indian people, the Jews of Israel and around the world. That brings together a bond of nations, as the ambassador touched on. 3 nations, 3 great democracies. India, the largest democracy in the entire world. Israel, a democracy in the Middle East, in spite of all of its challenges that it's faced, holds on to democratic values, and obviously the United States. It is those values that bring us together. And I think it's those values that are celebrated by the miracles of Hanukkah. The Festival of Lights is also the festival of the dedication, the thought that people believing in their values, standing up for what matters to them, and holding on to their traditions can carry it forward. The Maccabees fought and captured the temple in 165 BC. That was a long time ago. But today we still celebrate the memory of that fight and the belief that if you hold on to your beliefs, hold on to your faith, hold on to your traditions, hold on to the connections between peoples, you can travel across time. So we were here today in 2017, joined 3 peoples, working together for a brighter future, not just for our respective nations, but for the entire world. And I hope that the light of the candles on this 8th night, the brightest night of Hanukkah, can be a symbol of the opportunity of the nations, the 3 great nations, to continue to work together and be a light unto the world. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Congressman. I will now invite Ambassador Reuven Azar, Deputy Head of Mission of the Embassy of Israel, to address the audience. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Good evening. Perfectly okay. Thank you very much. Ambassador Sarna and my very good colleague, Santosh, thank you very much for hosting us. It's really a great privilege to be here in this Hanukkah celebration. Ladies and gentlemen, first of all, I want to congratulate you also because of your beautiful Hanukkah, which is not only beautiful, but also is made with oil, which is the original miracle, is about the oil. You know, Hanukkah is, we celebrate, it's not only a celebration for Jews. I think it's an important celebration for other nations or humanity as well, because as the Congressman has said, this is the first fight we had in history recorded fight for religious freedom. And religious freedom is an important value that we hold until today, and is something that also India has excelled in. And actually, Hanukkah has a slight connection to India as well, because according to oral records, the Bnei Israel, the first Jews that came to India, actually came at the same time when there was a Hellenic effort to erase Judaism. So the fact that they found refuge in India more than 2,000 years ago, I think, says something about it. And not only Bnei Israel, but also the Cochin Indians and also the Bnei Menashe and also the Baghdadis, they also found refuge in India. And we never had any record of anti-Semitism in India. So again, this is another sign, another reason why there is admiration in Israel for the Indian people in general, and for this relationship in particular. And I won't repeat again what you already said. I think we are in a historic year. The fact that Israelis had the right to see an Indian Prime Minister come for the first time in the history of our country, that was a huge privilege that will not very easily be forgotten. The fact that Prime Minister Netanyahu is going to come to India in very few weeks, and we're going to have the chance to build another layer on our strategic relation. And as we always say, together we are more or less a fifth of the world. So, so we are very encouraged by that. So again, I want to thank you very much for hosting us, and happy Hanukkah.
Thank you, Ambassador. I now have the honor to invite Mr. Jason Isaacson, Associate Executive Director of AJC, to deliver his remarks.
Thank you. Ambassador Sarna, Ambassador Azar, Congressman Schneider, distinguished guests. For many years now, thanks to your esteemed predecessors, Ambassador, AJC has been privileged to celebrate Hanukkah on Indian soil in Washington, just as 8,000 miles away. Our Indian Jewish cousins have been celebrating this holiday for centuries, as you've said, in the same spirit of brotherhood and friendship and mutual respect that has forever characterized the Jewish presence in India. And it's a privilege not only to speak on behalf of AJC in this setting, but to be among the celebrants of Ambassador Sarna's second Hanukkah as Indian Ambassador to the United States, although by no means your second Hanukkah celebration. You've celebrated Hanukkah hundreds of times when you were Ambassador to Israel. I know that. I will also not repeat the recitation of the milestone events that have taken place between India and Israel and India and the United States over this last year, this historic 25th anniversary of the relationship, the diplomatic relationship between India and Israel. But this is a particularly important moment to be celebrating Hanukkah and celebrating the relationship, the trilateral relationship of India and the United States and India and Israel, and all three together working to advance peace and security. But the recent succession of the high-level exchanges that you've referred to, Ambassador, hasn't just been about photo ops, although there have been some memorable photo ops, including the really phenomenal one of the two prime ministers on the beach in Haifa, which went all around the world, and we are now making blow-ups for some of our offices, in fact. But the exchanges have been about common interests and common values and the seizing of opportunities that will benefit both countries and also advance global peace and prosperity. In that way, the momentous events bringing India and Israel closer together reflect the deep and natural bonds between Indians and Jews, a bond that has existed for more than 2,000 years, as you said, and as you've said, Reuven, and that sustains efforts AJC and other organizations represented here have undertaken across the United States and in India and in Israel and with Indian American counterparts to strengthen cooperation that will serve both of our communities and the trilateral alliance that we are committed to building. Ambassador, as we celebrate Hanukkah together, and thank you for opening your embassy and devoting your and your staff's time to carrying on this important Washington tradition, please allow me to recommit AJC to our partnership with India and our support for the continued broadening and deepening of Indian American and Indian Israeli and Indian Jewish ties. And again, happy Hanukkah.
We also have in our midst Mr. Cary Summers, President of the newly inaugurated Museum of the Bible. I will now invite him to share his thoughts on the occasion with us. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much. Mr. Ambassador, thank you for inviting us here, and thank you for visiting the museum recently. So if you're looking for an endorsement for the Museum of the Bible, talk to the ambassador, okay? It's fantastic. We just opened, and so, to come to this kind of event is rather new for us because we're sort of the new kids in town. And I walked in and I said, how long have you been doing this? And it was 15 years. And I thought, really, hallelujah, this is fantastic. We had the Minister of Tourism come to our grand opening from Israel, and we're walking down one of the aisles where you can see the Capitol building. And he said, you know what you're doing here is you're tearing down walls between people groups. And I can't, with my 100+ trips to Israel over 35 years, and I have a home there, I can't commend you enough on what you're doing with this kind of event to tear down walls. And it's just fantastic for what you've done. And Hanukkah is a representation of the miracles that God did on the by lighting a crucible of light of oil that was to last one day, and it burnt for 8 days, and that's the reason you have the attendant candle and then the 8. And it's a representation of people fighting for their beliefs, for their culture, for what they stood for. And if there's ever a time in our world's history, as there is now, to do that, now's the time. And just amazing joy hit me when I walked in that the Embassy of India is celebrating Hanukkah here. Congratulations and thank you.
As you know, no Indian celebration can be complete without some singing. So holding true to that tradition, we have with us today the very talented Mekhala Jewish Young Professionals Group, who would be presenting, I think, three traditional Hanukkah songs to celebrate the occasion. Thank you.
Hi, good evening. Happy Hanukkah. Happy Hanukkah. We are DC's premier young professional a cappella group, and we're honored to say that this is our 7th time performing at this event. We're very excited about that tradition. We are going to be singing 3 songs for you tonight, but they are very short. The first will be Malzor, but it may be a rendition of Malzor that you don't recognize. It's by Renaissance composer Benedetto Marcello, and I hope you like it. Our next song is a modern take that's inspired by Malzor, Rock of Ages, by Miro Yom Tov Zeitlin.
Rock of Ages, are you coming soon to carry me away? Love and rages, what's been making me to stay? All around us, evil forces hound us. Bay. Bum, 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 bum,
And we have one last song, our signature song, Samachti Be'amrim Li.
Samachti Be'amrim Li, Be'tadomai Lele, Umdotayu Radleinu, Bisharayim Yerushalayim, Yerushalayim Habnuyah, Keir Shehu Bralayata, Sheshamalu Shifteka, Edut LeYisrael, Leodot LeShem Adonai, Shalu Shalom Yerushalayim, Yisrael.
Thank you very much. Happy Hanukkah. Was it for-
Thank you. That was truly inspiring. I will now invite Ambassador Sarna, Congressman Schneider, and Ambassador Azar to present bouquets to the members of the group as a token of our appreciation. Thank you. Thank you once again. Please join me in a big round of applause for the young Mekela group. Thank you. I now invite Mr. Daniel Mariashin, Executive Vice President of the B'nai B'rith Group, to please give the vote of thanks. Thank you.
I think most people know what's behind that door, or those doors, so I'm the only one between you and what's behind those doors. Mr. Ambassador, Congressman Schneider, good friend Reuven Azar, friends from the American Jewish Committee and AIPAC and the other organizations. Mr. Ambassador, you were talking about the 25th anniversary of relations, and I was privileged to be, I think it was January of 1992, I was privileged to be at the Waldorf Towers for a meeting with then Prime Minister Rao
when he announced to a group of representatives of Jewish organizations that the relations between India and Israel would be upgraded. And it's hard to believe that the 25 years have passed, but certainly, as everyone has said tonight, so much has happened in those 25 years. Just a few days ago, there was the rededication of the Beth El and Magen David synagogues in Kolkata. My mother-in-law, who was born and raised in Kolkata, often speaks fondly about her father, Kohen, being in synagogue every week at Beth El to receive the priestly blessings. Last week's dedication, which came at the beginning of Hanukkah, was attended not only by members of the Jewish community there, but by many others, including representatives of the government and the Israeli government as well. That members of the Jewish community and Indians of all backgrounds and guests from abroad, including France and Israel, other places in Europe, even Bhutan, attended these events speaks to the shared values of tolerance and inclusiveness that we two communities hold dear. And that these events occurred on Hanukkah, a festival of religious freedom, only underscores the increasingly close bonds of two proud democracies, India and Israel, both of which defend freedom of religion. Now, all of us will look back on 2017, everyone has said it, but I have to say it as well, with a visit of Prime Minister Modi to Israel and another year of progress and cooperation between the two countries. The bonds which have brought us together certainly were strengthened in this past year. And 2018 is off to a good start with the forthcoming visit of Prime Minister Netanyahu. The rededication of the Kolkata synagogue speaks not only to the proud history of the Indian Jewish community, but to its present and to its future as well. And in that spirit, Mr. Ambassador, we're deeply grateful to you for hosting this annual event. It's one of celebration, of mutual respect, and of looking to a future of close collaboration. Chag Sameach.
Now, without further ado, I invite you all to join us for dinner. Dinner is served in the room to your left. And for your information, we also have some kosher meals on a separate counter for those of you who would like strictly kosher. Everything else is vegetarian. Yes, thanks.